A pleasant day. Let's discuss about degradation and depletion of natural resources and utilization of land and environmental loss. Here's our key objectives. That is to determine unsustainable and sustainable development in situ. Another is discuss and identify urban problem related to energy. Next is discuss environmental ethics and laws. And lastly, examine climate change and its impact to our environment. Let's now proceed to our terminologies. What is nature? Nature is the phenomena of the physical world collectively, including plants, animals, and the landscape, and other features and products of the earth, as opposed to humans or human creations. Another terminology is natural resources. Natural resources are materials found in nature that can be used by humans. They are essential for human survival and well being, and they provide the basis for many economic activities. Last terminology is degradation and depletion of natural resources. Degradation is the deterioration or loss of quality of natural resources due to human activities. And depletion is the reduction of, or exhaustion of natural resources over time. Allow me to introduce our team. We have here Gabriel Dominic Bahoy, Brisa Ariana Bredicina, Jonalie de la Cruz, Renaline Laniton, and yours truly, Crystalline Paking, and lastly, Annalie Serna. Here's the content of this presentation. We have here social and environmental issues. Next is unsustainable to sustainable development. Another is urban problem related to energy. Another is environmental ethics, environmental laws, and lastly, climate change. Let's start the discussion with utilization of land. It is the way land is used or managed for various purposes, including agriculture, industry, housing, transportation, and recreation. Land use patterns can significantly impact the environment, economy, and society. Land provides us with a place to live, to grow food, and to access natural resources. However, as the global population continues to grow, the demand for land is also increasing and leading to greater competition for its use. And in order to ensure that the land is utilized in a sustainable and efficient manner, it is important to carefully plan and also to manage its use. And one of the key factors to consider when determining how to utilize land is its suitability for different purposes. For example, the land that is highly fertile may be best suited for agriculture, while there are lands that are rocky, then maybe it is better used for livestock or for forestry. And by understanding the natural characteristics of the land, we can make informed decisions about how to best utilize it for our needs. Another important consideration when thinking about land utilization is the concept of land use planning. Next, we are to identify the different land categories. First, we have agricultural land. Agricultural land is used for growing crops, for raising livestock, and other farming activities. Next is urban land. This kind of land uh, is in a city or town that is used for various activities such as housing, manufacturing, and also for business like retailing. Another is forest land. This one is covered by forests or it is reserved for the growth of forest. Next is grassland. This area in which the vegetation is dominated by a nearly continuous cover of grasses. That's why it's grassland. it's plenty of grass. Next is wetlands. This area naman, uh, it is an area where water covers the soil or the water is present either at or near the surface of the soil all year or for varying periods of time during the year and including during the growing season. Lastly is protected areas or also known as conservation area. This area is a geographical space that's set aside to preserve the nature and its cultural values. This is also associated with ecosystem services. Then here's the factors influencing land use. We have here population growth, economic development, technological advancements, environmental factors, and lastly, government policies. Let's talk about the social issues and environmental issues. Under this, we have social issues covering the poverty and economic inequality, population growth, unsustainable consumption patterns, the lack of governance and enforcement, and lastly, inadequate access to education and technology. For environmental issues, we have here deforestation, pollution, overfishing and overhunting, climate change, and unsustainable land use practices. To continue, here is Renaline Laniton.
Good day, everyone. I'm Renalyn Pilanitan. So the topic that assigned to me is unstable to sustainable development. So first, we have the unsustainable development. So let me define it first. Sustainable development refers to development that compromise the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. So it often involves the over exploitation of natural resources, environmental degradation, and social inequity. So under the unsustainable development, we have the industrialization. So let me define first the industrialization. So this is the economic. It can drive economic growth. And industrialization often leads to environmental degradation, so resource depletion and increased pollution. Heavy reliance on manufacturing can harm ecosystem and contribute to climate change. So one of the example of this here in Zamboanga, the overfishing in Zamboanga Strait affecting fishing and livelihood. So, yung pagkukuha ng mga isda na yung kuha nila ng kuha, hindi na masusustain yung kinukuha nila. So, second, we have the urbanization. So, a rapid urban growth can strain infrastructure. So, this lead also to inadequate housing and increasing pollution. So, city can face challenge like traffic congestion. So, um, here in Zamboanga also, we have also experiencing and a traffic. One of this, the overcrowding. So, not just also a traffic but also a community wherein Barangay Riohondo and Santa Barbara experiencing an overcrowding and slums, inadequate infrastructure. This effect also for environmental because the more people inside that barangays, which is yung parang ni-experience dyan na sa sobrang dami nila, madaming madumi. So, like parang they don't have any discipline. Hindi ko nila lahat, but some of the tumitira dyan sa Riondo or Santa Barbara is hindi marunong maglinis. That's one of the urbanization, yung pagdami ng tao dyan sa isang community. So, second, we have the fossil fuel reliance. So, this is the dependence of fossil fuel for energy contributes significantly to greenhouse gas emissions. So, also the climate change and air pollution. So this reliance on depletion natural resources can create environmental hazards. So example of this is air pollution from vehicles and industrial activities. So yung mga cars or anything vehicles that can produce air pollution, yung usok na mumula sa mga tambotso and anything that is also a sustainable development. So also we have the deforestation, so cutting down forests for we all know that this word is not just for hindi lang ngayon na encounter natin. We are familiar of this, that's the right term. So logging leads to habitat losses and biodiversity decline. So this leads to loss of biodiversity, destruction in forests and land degradation due to agricultural expansion. So um, this deforestation, so here in Zamboanga, um, sa OCNR, some of the na kinakat daw yung trees. So how can be community can survive, or our environmental can survive if kinakat yung trees. So may law na ngayon, if you cut trees, magkakaroon ka ng penalty. But kahit even you plant for that tree, you don't have any right to cut it down. So next, disposal of non-biodegradable waste. So this also is not this is also a common. So the accumulation of non-biodegradable materials like plastics poses significant environmental challenge. So these materials can pollute ecosystem, harm wildlife, and contribute to long-term waste management problem. So one of the example here in Philippines is improper waste disposal and landfill fires in Quezon City and other urban areas. Also, we have the rapid population growth. So, increasing population can outstrip resources such as food, water, and energy. So, leading a greater environmental pressure. So, this growth can exacerbate a issue like poverty, urban sprawl, and pollution. So, example of this is environmental degradation due to increasing population and social inequality in some barangays. So, yung pagdami ng tao, that's yung pagdami ng tao sa isang komunidad, yung what we call that, in that particular area, yung mga basura, something like that. So yung pagtira nila sa isang lugar na sobrang dami nila na hindi na nila hindi na nila napapakitaan na malasakit ang environment because of naduming tubig, they don't clean drainage, just like that. Yung sobrang pagdami ng mga tao sa isang komunidad. So second, we have also the irresponsible planning. So poor planning causes inefficient resource use, environmental degradation, and lack of resilience to disasters. So example of this here in Zamboanga City has could involve the construction of residential areas in flood prone zone with a proper drainage system. So this could lead to severe flooding and causing damage to properties and structures. So this is true here in Zamboanga. When I was hindi ko pa nakita na bumaha tong Zamboanga. But nung the other year, dun ko lang nakita na bumabaha. There's also yung simpleng ulan lang, baha agad. I never experienced that when I was in my elementary days. Pero syempre dumadami nang nakatira dito sa Zamboanga, and we can control that, we can't. So that's the one of the example of responsible planning, yung mga properties and structure causing damage. Okay, So the second one, we have also the sustainable development. So if there's unsustainable, there's also sustainable. So parang if may problema, may solution. So number one, under the sustainable development, we have the organic farming. So organic farming practice that avoid synthetic fertilizer and pesticide, focus instead of natural method to enhance soil health and biodiversity. So this one is also yung mga gulay, natural lang, hindi nilagyan ng mga pesticides, because it's also lead to environmental harmful, kasi pagkakainin natin magkakasakit tayo if there's of course there's side effects, yung mga mga fertilizers na may mga side effects. Okay, so second one, we have the agroforestry. So this integrating trees and shrubs into agricultural landscape to enhance biodiversity, improve soil health, and increase resilience against climate change. So examples here in Zamboanga, farmers are adopting agroforestry by planting coconut trees alongside coffee or cacao. So this method not only provides shade but also enhances soil fertility and helps diversify income. So the third one, we have also the permaculture, holistic design system that mimics natural ecosystem to create sustainable agricultural practices. So focusing on the interconnectedness of plants, animals, and humans. So example here is implementing permaculture principle by using companion planting and waste recycling to create self-sustaining gardens that provide food and green spaces. So yung mga recyclable things, di ba, na pwede bang gamitin sa gardens, na nagpo-provide ng mga pagkain and green spaces na like parang healthy like environment by doing tree planting, like that's also for animals. So for animals, of course, yung you have to put them in a safety place, the right place, snakes, like that, something ng mga animals that they can live longer in that kind of place. For humans also, focusing on the interconnectedness daw. So plants and animals and humans are connected to each other, kasi iisa lang din naman tayo ng tinitirahan. Okay, so the fourth one, we have the waste management. So let me define it. So the process of collecting, treating, and disposing of waste in ways that minimize environmental impact and promote recycling and reuse. So also, one of the example here in Zamboanga siguro yung paglalagay ng mga trash, mga garbage disposal ng government natin. When we say yellow, red, yung mga trash can na nasa gilid-gilid ng sa City Hall, sa basta other here in Zamboanga. So the city of so one of the example also is the yung paglalagay ng mga garbage nga yung sa mga gilid-gilid na nakikita natin sa town, school, sa labas ng school. Yun yung provided yun ng government. Okay. So the fifth one, we have also the rainwater harvesting. So collecting and storing rainwater for later use, which helps conserve water resource and reduce dependency on groundwater municipal supply. So yes, rainwater from the word rain. So yung mga tubig sa ulan, pwede din natin siyang gamitin. Sa amin nga, ginagamit yun namin para maligo, pero pinapakuluan namin for for protecting ourselves, kasi nga we can't surely 100% na malinis ang tubig, but also we can use it naman for para ihugas ang plato, etc. For sustainable for kung walang tubig, naputulan ka ng tubig or whatsoever, you have also other plan to restore water. So the sixth one's urban planning. So designing urban spaces to promote sustainability, including efficient land use, transportation, and green spaces. So the city, just like the city of Davao, they implementing green urban planning strategies that includes developing parks, promoting mixed-use development, and enhancing public transportation to reduce traffic congestion and pollution. So, di ba, yung nakita, how the Dutertes lead the city of Davao na walang traffics, they reduce traffic congestion and pollution. Sobrang linis ng Davao, guys, if nakapunta na kayo. If you already go there, visiting their cities, napakalinis. So we have also the last one. We have also the electric vehicles. So vehicles powered by electricity instead of fossil fuel, contributing to reduce greenhouse gas emission, improve air quality. So do you familiar kasi to sa mga Japan, China, they use electric vehicles. Meron na sa Pilipinas pero I do not sure if nakita nyo kasi sa amin nakabili kami, hindi sa akin, parang sa auntie ko ganyan, nakabili sila ng electric vehicles. Charge siya pero hindi siya yung parang mabilis magtakbo. Ano lang, timing lang. Pero rechargeable siya. So, kung walang gasolina, no problem. I-charge mo lang siya. So, So, in Metro Manila, so example of this is in Metro Manila, electric jeepneys are being introduced as a sustainable public transportation option to reduce air pollution and dependence of fossil fuels. So, I don't get this is the right example because hindi naman yung jeepneys is not our like parang hindi siya solution kasi the more jeepneys, the more air pollution. So, ang sa akin lang is one of the example is yung electric vehicles talaga. Very talaga siya. Very useful. And that's all.
Next topic will be discussed by Annalise Serna.
Urban problems related to energy. The first one is urbanization. The rapid growth of cities puts a strain on existing infrastructure and increases overall energy demand. So, for the example, a city's population doubles, requiring significant increase in electricity generation and also distribution capacity to meet the needs of new residents and businesses. The next one is energy demand and supply mismatch. The demand for energy often outpaces the available supply, leading to shortages and unreliable service. The example, like during peak hours, electricity demand may exceed the power plant's capacity, resulting in rolling blackouts or brownouts. The next one is energy poverty. A significant portion of the urban population may lack access to affordable and reliable energy services. So, the example is low-income households may struggle to pay their electricity bills, leading to disconnections and limited access to essential services like lighting and heating. The next one is aging infrastructure. Outdated energy infrastructure like power lines, grids, and etc. is efficient, prone to failures, and unable to handle increasing demands. Example, old power lines may overheat and cause power outages during hot weather, disrupting services and causing economic losses. The next one is limited grid capacity. The existing electricity grid may not have the capacity to handle the growing energy demands of a city. Example, adding new renewable energy sources to the grid may be difficult due to limited transmission capacity, requiring costly upgrades to the grid infrastructure. The next one is dependency on foreign resource. Reliance on imported energy source makes cities vulnerable to price fluctuations and geopolitical instability. Example, a conflict in an oil-producing region can lead to a sharp increase in fuel prices, like affecting transportation and heating costs in the city. The next one is noise pollution. It is energy production and distribution can generate significant noise pollution, impacting the quality of life for urban residents. Example, the operation of power plants and transformers can produce loud noises that disturb nearby communities. And the last one is air pollution. The burning of fossil fuels for energy production contributes significantly to air pollution in cities. Example like emissions from power plants and vehicles can cause respiratory problems and other health issues for the city dwellers. Solutions to urban energy problems. The first one is renewable energy adoption. It is transitioning to renewable energy source like solar, wind, and hydropower to reduce reliance on fossil fuels. For example, installing solar panels on rooftops of buildings to generate electricity or constructing wind farms on the outskirts of the city to provide clean energy. The next one is energy efficiency. It is improving energy efficiency in buildings, transportation, and industries to reduce overall energy consumption. For example, implementing energy efficient building codes for new constructions, promoting the use of public transportation and electric vehicles, and upgrading industrial equipment to reduce energy waste. The next one is energy storage. It is developing and deploying energy storage technologies like batteries, pump hydro, and etc. to address the intermittency of renewable energy source. For example, installing large-scale battery storage systems to store excess solar energy generated during the day and release it during peak demand in the evening. The next one is community-based energy initiatives. It is empowering local communities to participate in energy production and distribution through initiatives like community solar projects. For example, establishing a community-owned solar farm where residents can purchase shares and receive credits on their electricity bills. The next one is electric mobility. It is shifting to electric vehicles and promoting the development of charging infrastructure to reduce reliance on gasoline-empowered vehicles. For example, installing EV charging stations in public places and offering incentives for residents to purchase like electric cars. And the next one is energy conservation policies. It is implementing policies and regulations to encourage energy conservation and reduce energy waste. For example, setting energy efficiency standards on appliance, like implementing building codes that require energy efficient designs, and also promoting public awareness campaigns on energy conservation. The next one is decentralized energy system. It is developing smaller localized energy systems like microgrids to improve reliability and resilience of the energy supply. For example, creating microgrids that can operate independently of the main grid during power outages, ensuring continued energy supply to essential services like hospitals and also schools. The last one is waste to energy initiatives. It is utilizing waste materials to generate energy, reducing landfill waste, and providing a sustainable energy source. For example, building waste to energy plants that convert municipal solid waste into electricity or biogas. Environmental ethics. The next reporter will discuss about this topic.
Good day, I'm Jonalie De La Cruz and I will be tackle about environmental ethics. So environmental ethics is a branch of applied philosophy that studies the conceptual foundations of environmental values as well as more concrete issues surrounding societal attitudes, actions, and policies to protect and sustain biodiversity and ecological systems. Environmental ethics is the study of moral principles guiding how humans interact with the natural world, focusing on respect, conservation, and sustainability. And it examines our responsibilities toward ecosystems, animals, and future generations, and encouraging behaviors that minimize harm and promote ecological well being. So here are the four key concepts of environmental ethics, which is the intrinsic value, anthropocentrism, biocentrism, and ecocentrism. So intrinsic value, the belief that nature has inherent worth independent of its usefulness to humans. So this contrasts with the instrumental value of nature, which is seen as a means to human ends. So intrinsic value is the inherent worth of something valued for its own sake rather than for its utility to others. In environmental ethics, it implies that nature, animals, or ecosystems have value independent of human needs or perceptions. Second is anthropocentrism, the view that humans are the center of the universe and have the right to exploit nature for their own benefit. So, anthropocentrism is the belief that human beings are the central or most important entities in the universe, often leading to a human centered view of the environment. And this perspective prioritizes human needs and desires over the intrinsic value of nature and other species, influencing environmental decisions and policies. Third is biocentrism, the belief that all living things have intrinsic value and should be treated with respect. So, biocentrism is the ethical view that all living beings have inherent value and deserve moral consideration, regardless of their utility to humans. So, this perspective promotes the idea that humans are just one part of a larger ecological community, encouraging respect and preservation of all forms of life. So, the fourth one is ecocentrism. The perspective that ecosystem and planet as a whole have intrinsic value and that human actions should be guided by the need to preserve and protect the natural world. So, ecocentrism is an environmental philosophy that places intrinsic value on all living organisms and ecosystems, not just humans. It emphasizes that nature has worth beyond human use, advocating for the protection of ecosystems as whole entities. So here are the three approaches to environmental ethics. First, virtue ethics. Second, utilitarianism. And third, deontology. So the first one is virtue ethics. This approach emphasizes the development of character traits such as compassion, humility, and wisdom that promote environmental stewardship. So, virtue ethics is a moral philosophy that focuses on an individual's character and virtues rather than specific actions. So, as the basis for ethical behavior, it emphasizes becoming a good person through cultivating virtues like honesty, courage, and compassion, aiming for moral excellence in life. Second, utilitarianism. So, this ethical theory focuses on maximizing happiness and minimizing suffering. In the context of environmental ethics, it might involve weighing the benefits of human activities against the cost to the environment. So, utilitarianism is an ethical theory that advocates for actions that maximize overall happiness or well being for the greatest number of people, and it evaluates the morality of actions based on their outcomes, promoting choices that to the greatest positive impact. The third is deontology. So this approach emphasizes duty and obligation. It suggests that humans have a moral duty to protect the environment regardless of the consequences for human well-being. So deontology is an ethical theory that emphasizes following moral rules or duties regardless of the consequences. It argues that certain actions are inherently right or wrong, and individuals have an obligation to act in accordance with these principles.
Hello po, I am Visaria Naiba Disina, and today I am going to discuss the environmental laws, also known as the environmental legislation or eco laws, are a set of rules and regulations that aim to protect the natural environment and promote sustainable development. So here are some of the Republic Acts that are mandated in the Philippines to protect our environment. So first, we have the Philippine Environmental Impact Statement System, or the Presidential Decree No. 1586. So the Philippine Environmental Impact Statement System promotes a sustainable development and environmental stewardship, ensuring that development projects minimize harm to the environment and communities. Next, we have the Strategic Environmental Plan for Palawan Act of 1992. So this act aims to conserve and protect the Palawan's unique and fragile environment. Next, we have the Climate Change Act of 2009. This law aims to integrate the concept of climate change in the policy formulation and development plans of all government agencies and units, to the end that the government will be prepared for the impact of climate change. Next, we have the writ of kalikasan. So the writ of kalikasan is a legal remedy in the Philippines that aims to protect the constitutional right to a healthy environment. So the kalikasan is a Filipino term that means nature or environment. Next is the Philippine Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Act of 2010. So the Philippine Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Act of 2010 is a landmark legislation that aims to reduce disaster risk and manage disasters in the Philippines. Next is the Philippine Sanitation Code. So the Philippine Sanitation Code aims to ensure a clean and healthy environment in the Philippines. And also, it sets standards and regulations for sanitation, hygiene, and waste management. So the Philippine Sanitation Code serves as a foundation for the country's sanitation policies, ensuring a cleaner, healthier, and more sustainable environment for Filipinos. This is the Philippine Clean Air Act of 1999. So the Republic Clean Air Act of 1999, also known as the RA 8749, this an act providing for a comprehensive air pollution control policy. So this will be discussing about how to control the types of pollution we emit in factories and at the same time in our home, especially banning us from the use or from burning plastics. Next is the Ecological Waste Management Act of 2000. So ecological waste Management Act of 2000 provides guidelines and targets for solid waste avoidance and volume reduction through source reduction and waste minimization measures. So this particular law will not only tells us how to disaggregate our waste into biodegradable and non-biodegradable, but at the same time it will talk about what is solid waste and how to properly dispose it, and the guidelines on how to establish a good dump site or a sanitary landfill or waste disposal. This is the Philippine Clean Water Act of 2004. This act provides for the abatement and control of pollution from land-based sources and lays down water quality standards and regulations. So, this act providing for a comprehensive water quality management of a fresh, brackish, and marine waters, focusing on pollution prevention. So aside from providing us with how to prevent pollution by valuing this particular law, we should also clear the hypes of water depending on the use that will be under RA 9275. Overall, the Philippine Clean Water Act of 2004 demonstrates the government's commitment to environmental sustainability and public health. So, the environmental laws play a crucial role in protecting the planet and ensuring a sustainable future for all. Now, let's lend our ears to our last presenter.
So for today, I will be talking about climate change. What is climate change? Climate change means that Earth's climate, the typical weather patterns we're used to, is changing over time. Normally, the climate changes slowly over thousands of years, but right now, it's happening much faster because of human activities. When we burn fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas for energy, or cut down large areas of forest, we release gases like carbon dioxide into the air. These gases act like a blanket around Earth, trapping heat from the sun. This extra heat causes the planet to warm up, leading to what's known as global warming. So, the key impacts of climate change. First, we have melting glaciers and rising sea levels. Due to global warming, these glaciers are melting faster than they can rebuild. When glaciers melt, they turn into water and flow into rivers, lakes, and eventually the oceans. As glaciers and ice sheets melt, all the extra water flows into the ocean, causing the sea levels to rise. Additionally, when ocean water warms up, it expands, which also contributes to higher sea levels. Rising sea levels can lead to flooding, especially in coastal areas, and can impact people, animals, and plants that live near the coast. So, next we have extreme weather events. So, extreme weather events are unusual and severe weather conditions that are much stronger or different from what we typically expect. Examples are heavy rainfall and flooding, drought, heat waves, storms and hurricanes, and snowstorms. We also have rising temperatures. It refers to increase in Earth's average temperature over time. This warming is mainly caused by human activities such as burning fossil fuels like I mentioned earlier and cutting down trees. Next we have ocean acidification. Ocean acidification means the ocean is becoming more acidic because it absorbs carbon dioxide from the air, and this can be bad for many sea creatures and the ecosystems they live in. Next, we have biodiversity loss. So, biodiversity loss refers to the decline in the variety of living things on Earth, including plants, animals, and microorganisms. It means that certain species are disappearing and the overall health of ecosystem is weakening, and this can harm the ecosystem and the services they provide like clean air, water, and food, which lead us to food insecurity. because climate change makes it harder to grow food because of things like drought and floods, which can lead to not having enough food to eat for many people. So, solutions to climate change. First, we have reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Do things that create less pollution, like using clean energy. Next, we have adapting to climate impacts. Make changes to cope with climate changes, such as building stronger structures or using water saving methods. Next, we have save energy at home. Use less energy and gas by turning off lights and using energy efficient appliances. Next, we have walk cycle or take public transport. Choose to walk, bike, or use buses and trains instead of driving to reduce pollution. Next, we have switch to an electric vehicle. Use cars that run on electricity instead of gasoline to lower emissions. Next, we have eat more vegetable. Choose more plant-based foods to reduce energy use and greenhouse gases. Next, we have reduce, reuse, repair, and recycle. Use less stuff, find new ways to use items, fix what's broken, and recycle materials to cut down on waste. Next, we have plant something. Grow plants or trees to help clean the air and absorb carbon dioxide. So, what is the relevance of this topic to entrepreneurship? Climate change affects entrepreneurship in various ways. It shifts consumer demands toward eco friendly products, offering opportunities for businesses to create sustainable options. However, it also raises cost of materials and energy, disrupts supply chains due to extreme weather, and introduces new environmental regulations that entrepreneurs must adapt to. On the positive side, climate change drives innovation, creating a demand for new technologies and solutions. As more businesses focus on sustainability, competition increase, requiring entrepreneurs to differentiate themselves to attract customers. In summary, climate change presents both challenges and opportunities for entrepreneurs, pushing them to adapt and innovate while meeting the evolving needs of consumers.
To finally close this discussion, we are leaving a saying from Bob Brown: the future will be green or not at all. By prioritizing sustainability, renewable energy, conservation, and reducing plastic consumption, we can work towards a healthier planet for all living beings. It is up to each and every one of us to make changes in our daily lives that will have a positive impact on the environment. And together, we can create a more sustainable world that will thrive for generations to come. Thank you so much.